Okay, and we're live. So, good evening, everybody, and welcome to TFC Open Mic Season 2, Episode 12. Let's talk VXP targets and post-raid roundup. Evening, everybody. How are we?
Good evening.
Pretty good.
Evening.
Evening.
That's good. Okay, and the last lot's just been taken twice by the same person. I don't know how that's worked out. Jeff's not been greedy.
Evil clones from another universe.
Say one was bad enough.
We've been taken over by a robot. What's that all about? Anyway, right. Oh, no, he's run away again. Stop it. You're confusing me. Okay, it's good. So we got Alex in there tonight. We've got Brian in there tonight. We've got Dr. Death in. Like I say, Jeff's in once now. Liam's in as well. Peter's in. Robin's in, obviously. The Hulch is in. And obviously, I'm here as well, TSM. So, we'll have a quick 10 minutes on the raid because obviously we haven't talked to the general, everybody, all the rest of the community about the raid so far. So, I can do it this time, Liam, to you, this for a change. All right, then. So I'm going to go this time from left to right, okay? Because it absolutely mucks everybody else. So the presenters always got his in a different direction to everybody else. So it's
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, Alexander, you first, mate. How was your raid? What did you get and what did you go for?
It was all right. I mean, it would have been nice. What basically I did is, because it was a 3-cycle rather than a 4-cycle, I knew that even if I would have gone for the Cannoneer, I wouldn't have got it. If I would have got it built, it's just like it would have been aiming towards the 4th one and the 4th one. And because we were down to 3, it was like, right, okay, I need to, think about what. So I went for the Harlech Ironclad.
Okay.
Clad fleet. I basically did seat time, ground the bees like a twat, and I gained everything that I wanted to gain. It was a case of looking at what do I need, so I was like, okay, what do I need to go forward? So the first priority obviously was to set myself up for the next raid. So it was the MPs and the specials that went with the M. First one's out, second one in the oven, set myself up. High velocity rounds, obviously because of what you guys had said. Weekly fleet now we sits, so my weekly this week was unbelievable. One sitting, done it, and a second sitting. It's not a seat time, we're grinding, but I know I'm going to be set up for the next raid. Even if I have to grind again, I have to grind. You do what you do.
Okay, that's good. Then you've played the clever game, really. So you've actually analysed what you need. Remember what I said about, in fact, I was talking about this about Robin yesterday. It's definitely a case these days of definitely being the smart guy, working out what you need, not what you want. And then especially with the fact that the change of a raid format just about to come in. And obviously these targets, once they're done, in 3 months' time will become the new FM targets as well. So really projecting ahead. And you're thinking about the next 12 months. So that's a really good idea. That's definitely the way ahead.
I finished the raid with what, 80 million, and it cost me 100 coins.
Okay, that's a reasonable trade-off, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That goes back to the old adage of the old 1 to 1.5 coins per million, which is what we generally, as a community, I think, if you are coining, is content with. Not too bad at all.
I couldn't complain.
Yeah, good. Okay, Brian, I know you're doing homework, mate, but any comments you want to make over and above what we obviously said in the week?
Well, I'll just run through mine. I got about 550 million. I got a lot of things, all the new things, and a bunch of other random stuff. It was a grind. It was rough, and I feel it was unnecessarily so, because just the new things was 320 million, and most of that is for armor of questionable quality.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah, like I took breaks for my eyes. I took breaks for and doing calisthenics like they have at the office at work to prevent carpal tunnel, because
yeah,
that's how damn long I was sitting and clicking. I mean, the raid was coin free, but I think I'm gonna have to spend $20 on a new mouse after that. It was, thank you for breaking it wide open for a lot of people with your video. The 107s, that helped me get it down. And you kind
Completely lost you there, Brian.
Yeah, we lost Brian's mic. He'll come back in a minute, I'm sure, anyway. But yeah, the 107 video, I'll tell you about that. I mean, that video wasn't necessarily my, my creation, but it was especially, I mean, as anything, it remodels and moves on, that sort of stuff. So the method I picked up was just slightly different to a couple I had seen. So, I think it did its job, and I'm not the only person, so it was definitely helpful for most. Are you back, Brian? Are you there?
I think so.
Yeah, you're in.
Okay. Yeah, I blinked out for a second.
Good.
Sorry.
Okay. Dr. Def, go on then. Hit it, mate.
Oh, I murked the whole raid, 752 million points, claimed every single thing that I could claim, even Berserker tokens, which I have no idea what I would ever use them for.
Building Berserkers, obviously.
I wasn't going to throw the points in the sea, so if there was something that I could click on and redeem, I did.
Okay.
But other than that, it was a grind, and the player base just seemed desperate this raid.
Yeah, I think that's a very good assumption there. Sorry, a synopsis there. I think desperate is definitely how I felt some of my alliance were feeling, I have to say this time. And as I said on Tuesday raid, one of my guys has actually stopped the game, unfortunately, because he just couldn't get what he needed. I couldn't give him the time to help him out. And that was it. He says, well, that's me, I'm done, because he couldn't get into the next cycle in advance, because he's a non-coin and that sort of stuff, and he couldn't jump ahead. So it's a shame, but he can't get to build and to rank and then make it worthwhile. By the time he does all that, it's that bit's over and he has to move on. So
sadly, though, it wasn't just the non-coiners that were walking away from it. I had 5 coiner friends that last week going into the raid, and through the start of the raid that just walked away.
Wow.
Scrapped their bases and said, I'm done. I mean, because they said it's just getting to the point where it feels like a job rather than a game, and they don't need a second job.
Yeah, I think Monster said the same thing. If those were listening on Tuesday night, he was saying that exact same thing for him. There's been as many new holes come out as many weeks he's been back in the game. Which is quite frustrating to say the least. So, but in fact, Ren made a good point. It was something like 12 holes in 12 weeks or something like that. It's been.
Well, it was 14 holes in 12 weeks.
It's 14 and 12, so it's even worse than, isn't it? Yeah. 14 and 12.
And then look at this cycle, from the start of last raid through the next raid, we're getting 6 holes in a month's time. I mean, that's just getting extreme.
Yeah. Well, we had a bit of a
you don't have to take. You don't need them all. Do you know what I mean? That's the trick that people just like it's like I've got to have it. You don't have to have it. Just this surviving and playing, and you know what I mean. And the ones that want that picture or that pretty picture, or is there such a thing as a must-have hole? I don't know. At times, like it feels like what's the quote from Star Wars? It's a trap.
It's a trap. Yeah, it is, and it's a famous line as well. I must admit, I think for the Uber coiners in this one is if you don't get it, you risk not being at the forefront of the game and that sort of stuff, and being dynamic and up there. And come on, it's an egotistical game. It is. That's the way it's played. It takes an absolute advantage of human nature, of greed and of drive and human nature to be better than the next person. It feeds off that, and it provides us comms to be able to do that as well. Yeah,
right.
Status as well.
But it's more than that, because Kicksai is not giving us any communication. So you always take a risk. If you miss one of these holes, you always take that risk that the hole you missed is the reason why you can't go forward.
And the communication we do get isn't always accurate. The things that we are told will work may not actually work. See also Centurions.
Or look at the look at that. They said, get the Centurions, and if you get that Harlock Centurion, you're going to be able to do the lower tier sets in that raid cycle. And they didn't work. Even when you got the flagship, it didn't work. The Kicksai's information was incorrect. And then look at all the players that struggled this last raid series that grabbed the Ironclad because it was supposed to be the blitz hole. And if you had the Ironclad, you were just supposed to be able to blitz through A sets or, tier 5 sets, whichever way you want to call it. And once again, you couldn't blitz tier 5 with an Ironclad. You know,
You cooked the first raid.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, you know, so people who didn't grab the Cannoneers were behind. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But remember what you know, for those that listened in on Tuesday, now remember what Ren said right at the end, okay? And so they acknowledge the fact that obviously, and this is going to happen this cycle as well. So this next raid is going to start off. There won't be any S targets, and obviously there'll be the 70s and that sort of stuff. And they'll have a set amount of damage, and then basically the raid after that there'll be one S set target and that sort of stuff. But also the target level below that will go up slightly in damage as well. And then the one after that, there will be 2 S set targets. The 70 will stay at its same damage level, and you know, so will the 50s and that sort of stuff. So it is progressive as the raid goes on and people's fleets get better. So you know, and that's what happened in this raid cycle. It's that same thing. You know, it has happened again.
Taking away the 4th.
Yeah, I do
Sorry,
fully
taking away the 4th one.
Well, I do agree. I do agree with you that
That is what hurts the most, I think.
Yeah, I do agree that the raids did get progressively more difficult, and there was no issue with that, you know, because people had time to build and improve their fleets. You know what I'm saying? But the problem with the last cycle was, and you know, most of the player base agrees with this, that first raid was based off of having Cannoneer with the Millennium Gun, off of having the best tech. That's the problem Kixeye seems to keep having, is they always tune the raids based on the best tech. So now if this raid cycle comes out and it's tuned to the best tech, which we're going to get a week before the raid starts, player base is going to struggle.
Well, as far as I can tell, I think the plan is that basically the icebreakers should be able to do 2 to 3, you know, a fleet of 4. And there's probably going to be a flag coming out as well, but a fleet of 2 to 3 would do more than one set of 70s, which is what the Ironclad couldn't do. You could do 2 targets, but you were very clever if you managed to get all 3 and get the bonus in one without the fleet dying, and that's even with a Harlock in front. You know, so but I don't think that's the plan again. The thing that was really, really bad with the fallout of that raid format, I think, right away from December onwards, was the fact that we had the calamity of, well, it's this weapon, it's that weapon, no change to this weapon, that sort of stuff, and the weapons just didn't come out. So at least this time the right weapons come out with the right hull. It may not be the go-to hull if you are the precise you know, player who likes to be, you know, accurate in his game, and you know, yeah, if you make a mistake it's going to cost you, but if you don't make a mistake you can get through the target for nothing. Not sure how that's going to work on a garrison, but you know, but yeah, a lot of people are waiting out, and I know we'll jump across in a minute because I know that's Liam's already his tac plan already for the coming raid cycle. Yeah, I see Imri's jumped in. Hi, buddy. How's your mic? Go test, mate.
Is it working fine?
Yeah, we're good, mate. How was your raid, mate? And what did you do?
How many targets did you steal this raid, Imri?
I haven't stolen anything. I was actually giving it back to the community this time.
No way! No way!
If it ain't on camera, it never happens.
That's a miracle.
I got several people to prove what I'm saying. I actually posted my total points in the end. I finished somewhere above 800 million points.
Okay, wow.
I've cleaned up out the store just like Dr. Bed did.
Mm-hmm.
So I got everything, literally. Nothing left behind. I was actually dumping like 100 million points in the ocean.
Wow, more than me then. I must admit, I ended up with about 15 million I couldn't spend in the end, so, but that wasn't too bad, you know.
The real problem is now what to actually do with all the prizes that I've managed to pick up.
Yeah, well, that goes back to Alex's point at the start, isn't it? You know, it's definitely a case of collect what you need, not what you want. But you know, I have to say, this one here, okay, it's a whole store and that sort of stuff. Or sorry, a tech store and that stuff. Now you've collected everything. You know, with the amount of it that's going to be released over the next 3 weeks, the next one's going to be really, really interesting. You know, in 3 months' time, we're going to get this again. What the hell are you going to collect then? Because there isn't going to be that much stuff.
Well, the concept is the same. Get everything.
Well, yeah, we have had what, 14 holes released in the past 3 months. So yeah, maybe some of those.
So yeah, but not turrets and that sort of stuff. You know, they can't do that many. Good God, well, if they did, they're committing game suicide because people just wouldn't be able to keep up. So I think I think yes, this one was a crazy moment, and people did get lots and lots of stuff like Chaos Mortar. Well, once you've got it, sort of stuff. So there's a big percentage out there that won't get that. and then obviously like, glacial turret and that sort of stuff. There are some things out there that, the level 4 rocket propeller, that's out there, wasn't it? So people that had the points grabbed it. So you can only grab it once, sir. You can't do it again. So
I've got an idea. They haven't managed to give us any tier 6 Conqueror who's in this whole store, so it would be just about time.
Yeah, they tend to get those from the TLCs. They like to rerun the TLCs for those, and I see that continuing for some time. But
and the Pride was only a month ago. They try not to give it out in a month, but I'm sure in 3 months' time, the Pride is going to be in there. That's usually what they do. They could just have one. They could just have one that's more token based. Like, yeah, they'll have some of the old stuff, but for people that are more ahead of the game, for lack of a better term, they just have more tokens, more generic tokens. Like here, there were a lot of tokens, but they could have like research tokens or, structure build tokens, and just stuff like that.
Okay, let's jump along then. Liam's there. Hey, buddy.
How's it going?
Good, mate. So I know you got to jump out and be taxi driving a bit. So go on, mate. Tell us about how frustrated you were with your raid.
Well, I did, go into this during the week. Yeah, it was a very frustrating raid for me because my fleet didn't perform as well as it should have done in the 100s and 107. So I had to stick to tier 5. I would bore you with the details, but basically I had to stick to tier 5, and it was painful. It was painfully slow. Doing 3 targets over and over and over, and only getting 2.5 millipole. It was just really slow, and trying to more so time consuming to do one set, to get that 2.5 million. And my progress was slow, and I didn't get nowhere near a high score as maybe many of you did. Even Brian, you got double what I got, which is great going. So I kind of just took what I needed. I didn't really take any tokens. Most I had everything on offer anyway, so it was just the new stuff I needed. I took all the new hulls, I took all the new weapons, all the new specials, and I took 4 of each armor, and that was it. That was me done. So it was a very painful raid.
Can I ask you a question, mate? So if this wasn't the whole store and a new hull and obviously those goddamn armors, which we'll talk about in a second, so this was a routine one, so you had to get 15 plus 9 plus 6. Would you have minded so much hitting the tier down?
Nah, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it was the fact that we needed such high scores. You know what I mean? It was such a high goalpost at the very start of the raid, just to even get. I mean, just to get the holes was 120 million. You know what I mean? That was so to me that equates to 50 sets.
Yeah, that's 4-fold of what it normally is, isn't it?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I don't want. I mean, I like the stores. I think they're good, but just. I don't know. I almost felt like there was too much on offer.
Yeah, I think. Well, yeah. I mean, you're just saying to get the whole. I mean, Imperium and that sort of stuff is a secondary issue because that's a generalist anyway. And yeah, it probably just isn't good. But to get the actual, the replacement, obviously for we won't mention Ironclad, but definitely for the Tideseeker. And to move forward because it'll be used in PvE later on. It's I'm not saying it's a must-have, but it's a highly recommended thing to go and get. And so I think you took the right options without a doubt because without it, you could suffer later on. But you did say at the moment you're still not going to build it just yet because you caught out last time and you built the Ironclads and the Cannoneers and then found you didn't actually need one of the fleets. Yeah.
So as I was saying in the pre-show, like I'm not going to build icebreakers because. Last raid cycle, I built Cannoneers and Ironclads and coined them both. And it turned out that the Ironclads were kind of useless in the raid. I mean, they weren't an autopilot target, or they were autopilot hull that they were set out to be. So this raid, I'm avoiding future punishment because that also tied up my dock for a long period of time. Trying to control those 2 fleets, trying to build the 2 flagships, adapting the fleets as the newer stuff come out. And I don't want to be suffering. Right now I'm finishing other fleets that I could have finished during that time period. And I'm just going to get them done and wait for the skill hole to come out in the TLC because, as Kixeye have openly said, there's going to be a TLC a week before the raid. It's going to have the new skill hole in it, and there's going to be enough tokens in it to build 2 or 3 of the holes. So what's the actual point of me spending the next month rushing out these icebreakers, trying to get them built, ranked, ready, when I can just chill out, catch up on some other stuff, and then just build the skill hole in a couple of weeks' time. For me, that just seems really sensible.
So what you're trying to say then is actually you're going to take a gamble. Okay, I think it's a plaudable gamble because we know that this raid that's coming up, the next raid's not coming up because it's quite a while though, but the raid that's coming up is going to be, there's no S targets, and there's going to be a TLC, which you're going to go for, and it's going to be probably utilizing the holes in the previous raid to get it, or something that you've already got, so you've got some good fleets to get it. You'll be able to make 2 or 3, and you'll be able to rank them as well. So the foundation is there, isn't it? Because it's 1 tier down. You don't need a full fleet. You know, you should be able to do as well as anybody else that's been reasonably slow building. Obviously, they're icebreakers. So.
Well, also, if you think about it, when I describe how the last raid went for me, and I talk about having to hit tier 5 and it being a slow, boring grind, I'm kind of setting myself up to avoid that for the end of this cycle, because if I build the icebreaker, that's the autopilot tier 5 hole, whereas the skill hole is going to be the S target sets, the tier 6 or whatever. Now, I don't want to be getting to the end of next cycle and sitting there thinking, damn, I've got to hit 200 sets of tier 5. So if I just ignore the tier 5 hole, go straight for the skill hole, the cannoneer style hole, then I'm basically setting myself up to not experience that much pain in the event store at the end of the upcoming cycle.
Yeah, my flow is very similar, I must admit. I mean, I'm going to go for this. I'm slow building stuff, just like a couple of cannons, a couple of bits of this and that sort of stuff. Weapons. I mean, for the icebreakers. But I'm going to take a pause because I know they're going to be needing the long term. But in the short term, then I'm going to switch focus and go to the skill hole. And then because that's always paid off for me in the raids in general. Once I've worked out what to do, and I like to pick targets apart and break things down and that sort of stuff. So for me, a blitzer, which is what we've got, in the icebreaker, is not just doesn't work for my gameplay. To be honest, great when we're back in PvE and we're doing our chores and that sort of stuff. We'll be using them for late in the year. I get that, and I can just click auto and go and do it, and then repair them overnight. Once I've got enough stuff. So there will be a use for them, so long as they're built to be as robust as what the Tide Seekers were, as opposed to. And we know Ironclads have been fantastic for doing the dub sort of type stuff to go and get our base parts, but that wasn't what they're actually built for. They just happen to work as well in there.
Also, though, does that then beg the question, did I need to put myself through that much pain to get the bloody icebreakers and armors in the first place?
Because you probably could have gotten, we'll talk armors in a minute. No, you probably could have gotten the next raid. You probably,
yeah, exactly, yeah.
You probably could have done. Right, good. So, Jess back in. How's your mic, mate?
That sounds good, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah, yes, we're good. We're all mate. So, how was your raid, mate? And what did you come up with? What did you come away with? Sorry.
Well, I got less than 100 million, but I got everything I needed. So.
Okay. And what did you select in the end? Which way did you go? What's your plan? Did you get all the holes, obviously? So you're going to go generalist, or you're going to go with the icebreaker?
I'm going generalist, and then see what happens when the skill hall comes out.
Yeah, because early stats are looking quite interesting on the generalist hole, I must admit. A couple of videos now, and obviously very low ranked ones, and I like the pairing of the speed and that sort of stuff. They seem quite decent. It's early days, but it's obviously until we've seen them fully ranked up and that sort of stuff. I'm never quite sure, but I think definitely for the tier down the 70s, I think you'll be as good as probably doing the icebreaker, and a little bit more technical maybe because you got
at least for the first raid, yeah.
Yeah, I mean you can probably. I mean, they're of the same compatible for tier that the ships are. So the nice thing I think about using the generalist holes, and you can just actually go and fix one tank. If you build 2 tanks and have obviously four the mort chuckers behind it, is wait till you kill off one of your tanks and then just go and fix that while you're using the second one, which obviously is a bonus over doing the icebreaker method, because once they're dead, aren't they? So.
Well, I say the first raid because, like in this last raid cycle, 3 cannoneers could do 70 sets easily. The second raid, not so much.
Yeah, that climb as they expect you to build more as the months go on, that sort of stuff, and then obviously the damage does absolutely categorically go up by a set percentage. We don't know what the percentage is, but it definitely does go up.
Well, and the health, I think the health on some of those turrets went up too, like the big launcher turret in the middle.
Well, we all know that every day that log in, things get harder because that's been publicized so many times, whether it has or whether it hasn't. But the FM's got harder, and this has got harder, and that's got harder. So I always call it the equalizer of life. In this game, it just seems to. It's like, all right, let's slide this one up and down that one and up this one, sort of stuff. So somebody always says something, virtually every day on the page, don't they? So it's good.
See, I think that's a tinfoil hat theory, though. But do you know the one tinfoil hat theory that I think is accurate?
Go on.
Right. The probability of rolling certain road crews, that is fucking true. I'm telling you. They tweet that depending on where the game is. I'm telling you.
They tweet that on the time of the day and the number of clicks it takes you to. And who you are. If you've got an L in your name, you've had it.
Fuck off. No, I'm telling you, right? If there's a raid coming up and the raid hole does exceptionally well with a particular crew, all of a sudden that crew becomes the most impossible fucking thing in the world to roll.
It's
Whereas
based on
normally you roll it 10 to a dozen.
It's based on the atmospheric white noise with the sub generator based on the number of frames since you last clicked the button.
Well, I'm coming up with a mathematical theory, so I'll let you know.
I will check your work.
Yeah, please do, because it'll be worse than mine. I bet you. Anyway,
George, what's the repair efficiency on the new armors? Oh, he's not here, but he'll watch.
Yeah, he will. Okay, Peter, you mate, go ahead.
All right. So, like Jeff, I think he said, I'm going the generalist route. I grabbed the Imperial Mortar trajectory plotter. I grabbed the Zealous and its weapon and special, which normally come up in the Forsaken mission, but I'm not getting up to tier 5 as regularly as I'd like.
Right.
So I think since it's available on the raid, grab.
Jumping ahead, which is good. It'll get you close to the tokens in the future, won't it?
Yep. And I also grabbed a whole bunch of other stuff that should come in handy. I forget everything I grabbed, but I definitely grabbed the Executioner, the Deadeye Executioner, because I need a decent missile turret, and I had Brimstones in as a stopgap, but when I saw the Executioner, it's like, ooh, must have.
Yeah, it's good, and the specials are similar, aren't they? So you haven't got too much to change, have you?
Nope, not in the least.
Good.
Yeah, I didn't grab a ridiculous amount of stuff, but I got the stuff that I think is going to be useful in the next raid and some stuff I've been needing for a while, so I'm happy.
This is going to be a really interesting raid format. I mean, we're going to start it next month, and we're going to have 3 types of... Obviously, we're going to have the people with the skill, the people with the icebreakers, and the people with the generalists. And the people that have not got any of that, so they're going to be going around with hopefully some Punishers and a few Citadels and that sort of stuff. So there's actually going to be 4 fleets out there, or 4 fleet styles. It's going to be pretty freaking interesting. And how they're going to, compensate so that everybody can get something. Wow. They got their hands full with that one, I think, to be honest.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah.
I tell you, I don't envy the job Kixeye is going to have for tuning the next raid targets.
Well, yeah, as you know, Kixeye always get it right, so...
Sorry.
Yeah, bang on.
I wasn't to laugh out loud then, sorry.
They got it right against the best tool in the game, and that's it.
It needs to be said to the community again, because after I posted my videos, I've gotten messages back from people about the icebreakers and what to use in the next raid. And there's still people believing that because the next raid is going to be the new FM targets, that they're going to be able to use their vendettas in it. And they cannot use them.
No, that stopped. They said that as soon as the target changes, that's it. You cannot use vendettas. No conqueror holes in general. Sorry, in anything other than obviously PvP targets and that sort of stuff. So, and if it looks like a building and it's only got a building, then yes, you can. But this has got fleets in it. This is garrison. You can't.
In fairness to them, they actually wanted to do that a lot. Like they wanted to change it straight away, and the fact that they're holding off until they change the targets is actually pretty good of them to do. In all fairness, I think.
Oh yeah, I think it would have been terrible if they didn't do that, because so many people that built their vendettas because they have such a short build time would have just been rocked, and that would have been, they probably would have quit.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, probably would have done. Right, move on. Hulsh, mate, how are you? If you're still alive.
I'm doing good.
You're good, mate. Okay, so tell us about your experience, buddy.
Well, I liked last month's raid because I earned 100 million more last raid than this raid. And I got 650 million this raid, but it's I wish the points for the S set would have been up, because even if it took you the exact same amount of time to do both the 100 and 107, you were losing like 13% points, and it took longer to do the 107, so you were even losing more than that. So it was grindy more than.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with a bit of jiggery poke, we managed to get the 107 down to be a grind target, didn't we? And that sort of stuff, across the community, several people managed to work out a pattern. But you certainly couldn't do that with 100. That was no grind target, was it? That was a bit of a beast, and a lot of people have problems with that one. Particularly, they got lag.
Yep.
Yeah. So a lot of people just ignored it, and they were stacking up lots of 107s, which is nice, and you get some reasonable points and that sort of stuff. But actually, you aren't getting that bonus, which is, as Monster said, he managed to smash out more 74s in the same time as the grind on a 107. So he was content just to stick to the. And as he said, those that listen on Tuesday, he basically glued his ass to the chair for 8 hours a day for nearly 6 days. To try and get, which is ludicrous, and I haven't heard of anybody doing that in that manner, particularly at his level. 2.5, 3 years maybe.
Monster is an absolute beast, though.
Oh, he is. If he wants something, he's so ignorant. He'll just and bullheaded. He'll just get it. So.
I bet
He is a monster, and there we go.
They'll all be coined now as well.
Yeah, he does make me smile, I have to say. That's good. Right, I've jumped over and not being rude at all, but I know I'm going to let Robin start off with the armor as well, because she's done a little bit of digging on that and a bit of investigation. So, Robin, first, how was your raid? And just summarize that for us, and then let's go straight in, and then after that onto the new armor and then what you've found out so far.
Okay, well, the raid, as everybody said, the price of the armors and then the time involved. I think I talked about this on Tuesday. I think I figured it out that not even with the armors, just to get the top holes and the weapons, I think it worked out doing the S sets. It was like 9 or 10 hours, which is way too much when you've got the best fleet and you're able to hit the best targets. Positives was the ability for people to do catch up, and some people were trying too hard to get too much. Based on what we know, we're going to see this superstore again, so there'll be less to get next time. So it was a good positive thing there, where people were able to clear things off of their FM and be able to fill in some holes, as people have said, with turrets and things like that. And so for the new armor, there are some people, I know there are others that are testing. I have done some testing with a Zealous with a single M armor and a single X armor, and then various combinations thereof. And I understand the premise of the minimum damage per shot, and that, if you come up against torrents, you're going to get hit with a boatload of minimum damage. But what I can't prove, at least to myself, is if the minimum damage is being applied correctly, and is it minimum damage for each individual hull, each individual panel. And what I mean by that is, if you have 2 of the M armors on your hull and you come up against a Rhino with missiles, are you being penalized for 2 sets of minimum damage, or are you only being hit with 1? And if you have a ship with 1 of each kind of armor, based on the testing that I did, I actually saw where, when I had the 2 different types of armor, even though I was being hit by a Rhino with only missiles, so there was actually no explosive in there, it was like I took twice the minimum damage using the other one.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Yeah, exactly. And now from the video I saw as well, that was Ren's video, he had the same thing. He put he put one of the new armors on his Zealous as well. And took off obviously only one plate of D1X and that sort of stuff, and the damage was just ludicrous, double for the same target. It just didn't make sense, anything at all. Dr. Def, you've done the same thing, haven't you? You've done a couple of videos.
Well, the thing I noticed about it, and I don't know what exactly the issue is, that if you use these armors in an old target, something just is not right, because you take twice the damage that you would if you didn't have them on. Now, in the new VXP targets, these armors work like gold. I mean, I would have walked to 101 with just 1 icebreaker if I had put 2 of each of the armors on.
Really? That's interesting.
I wasn't taking damage until the pull ran out.
Hey, I think that I heard this. I was talking to someone last night on the after show for the Grib, and
Yeah.
he suggested that it's due to the bypass from the player versus enemy targets, possibly.
Potentially.
Because the bypass isn't in the new 101,
But
it's
it is.
in all the old targets.
That's so different target mechanic is what you may be thinking.
Yeah.
Right, but the old target. But see, this isn't supposed to be deflection armor. This is supposed to be different than deflection armor. So the bypass should not be affecting it.
But it's
deflection and resistance is it's too different.
But it's not.
Yeah.
The armor itself isn't the resistance; it's the straight up deflection. But it's a different type of deflection. But it's might still be limited by the deflection bypass in our current player versus enemy targets.
As far as I'm aware, the way to calculate it would be that the bypass armor you would take off first, and then say, for example, I was hitting a base, you would take the bypass off a player base. You would take the bypass off of the weapon damage first, and then calculate the deflection. Same if I was hitting a PvE target and it was resistance, you would. And say, for example, a missile was hitting me that did 20,000 damage, and I had a bypass armor that took 10,000 off. First of all, you would drop 10,000 off of that weapon damage and to leave it with 10,000, and then you would minus off your resistances. So in theory, if Kixeye has not fucked anything up, then the bypass shouldn't affect deflection or resistance because it's a calculation that comes out first. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it sounds like to me. Yeah, I've got the same sort of theory. I do the bucket with a hole in the bottom sort of stuff, and then someone's filling it from the top. It's the same sort of concept. Basically, once I mean, it's a negative factor, but once the bucket's full, it's going to overflow, no matter how much drops off at the bottom. So the bottom is a drop off rate of eventually this stuff's going to run out.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't soak away fast enough to stop the bucket spilling over. As soon as it starts spilling over, you're going to trash the floor. You're going to trash your ship.
Can I? Guys, sorry, I do have to unfortunately leave. I have to
go shoot, mate. Okay.
Yeah, I've got to go pick the missus up from work. So have a great show, all. Great to see you all, and I will catch up with you in the week. Take care.
Take care, buddy.
Take care, Liam.
No.
Bye, Liam.
See you, Liam.
Right, is that bloody guy gone now? Oh, cool.
That's why I did my testing against a ship and not playing around with all of the multiple targets. And it was just a straight rhino with blades. And as soon as I popped that second piece of armor on, things just really started looking hinky. And so I did send a big bunch of stuff into Kick. So I'm kind of excited and waiting to see what they come back with, because something just doesn't add up. It's almost, as we were talking in the show, it's almost like if you have a good fleet, you're almost being penalized if you use this armor, whereas it might serve somebody better who doesn't have a good fleet.
Did you send that in via CM or did you send it to GDM?
No, I sent it in via CM, and then depending on with a thing up front stating who needed to see it, and if it doesn't get anywhere, then I'll escalate it. But
yeah, give us a shout if not, because I'll send it straight to one of the guys if not, or George can sort of stuff. So yeah, okie dokie.
That's what I did. I did extensive testing. Both, I took and had a guy in my sector bring out a ship and tried it that way, and the results I got were the same as what you got, Robin, with the armor panels on. The ship that had that armor on took way more damage than the ship that had traditional armor on. And then I took it into the FM targets and tried the exact same thing with the exact same result. The ship with the new armor on just totally got ripped apart, whereas the ship with the traditional armor just ran the target. Tried it in a cargo, exact same effect. But now in the new target, it was the exact opposite effect. As long as there was pool left on those armors, the ship was barely taking any damage at all.
It's exactly what you'd expect. So it's got to be a target dynamic, mustn't it? Something. I mean, we don't know what they're building, how they're building that sort of stuff, and they have said. I mean, the release note even said, don't expect this 101 target to be anything like the targets in the new obviously raid, because it won't be. Well, it's pretty freaking close to a, the right type of target and that sort of stuff. It may not be the actual one, but it's quite interesting the mechanic works for the icebreaker, but it doesn't work, or the armor particularly. But all other targets to date do not work as well. So, yeah, be interesting to see what they're going to do. And hi, George, in the chat, mate. Good to see you, buddy. You can mod that now for us. That's good. Yeah, interesting. I think we just need a bit more testing, that sort of stuff, and I would like to see some feedback. I must admit, and I know. I think I'm pretty sure. I know George does know which of the mods, which of the the game developers are doing this particular target set. So we see how far they've got with it. I know they've not settled exactly on what they intend to do. I know things are not quite going as smooth maybe as they would hope to so far in the development stage, but they'll get there. That's what I can say. So the feedback from this VXP weekend will definitely be utilized to take things forward without a doubt. But yeah, intrigued, I have to admit. And Dr. F, I did watch your videos quite intensely and that sort of stuff, and I watched Ren's as well. And I did some comparisons between the two for myself. You know, I didn't have enough tokens to redo mine, but so I utilized yours, and yeah, I was. The analysis is exactly that. It's the new target which seems fine. The remainder just seems completely opposite to what it should happen to me. It just seems weird. Right. Anyway, right. So good. So looking forward then, projecting forward. So we're talking about icebreakers. Is there anybody else actually on the panel or in the chat there that's basically going to wait? Okay. I mean, this is what I'll tell you what I've done. Okay. So I built the four blank icebreakers. That was what I've done. I put one weapon on each. I'm not building a fifth one because I believe I'm probably right or wrong. I don't know, but I believe a flagship will come out, and that's it. I'm going to pause and wait now, and I'm going to wait for, like, say, the technical hold to come out. Is there anybody else that's following that line, or somebody who's got something different they're going to do?
I finished my Fury.
Have you?
No, so I'm going to. I just put it in last night. I finally ranked it.
All right, yeah. You know, George is in chat there. It's a shame he's not on now because George, you know that little build you were talking about? I've built it. It's pretty good. It works, mate. So yeah, it was quite amusing. So my Ferox is in, and I've been doing things with it. That's it does work. I have to say, it's good fun.
That are too hot for YouTube.
I haven't actually done any videos for a while, and I've stopped doing basic videos. I don't do those anymore. So I don't do look at me stuff anymore. So but yeah, it's a good little hoe, I have to say. I haven't done it with the rest of the Furies though. I must admit, I've just utilized it on its own with some other stuff. But it has its own soak capability, which is nice. What about everybody else? Go on, somebody else pick up. Enough about me.
Because they gave us all those tokens in the raid, and you couldn't really spend them on the skull hole. And with my priorities, where I tend not to build Conqueror fleets, I've taken two. I have 4 blanks. I think right after the show, it should all be repaired, and I can get the last 2 skulled. I got 2 with a weapon on them, and they got skulled really fast. I'm gonna try to make 2 and get them done enough before the TLC skill hole, and then I'll get that and switch to that. It's weird, and I just have to hope that 2 icebreakers is going to be enough, because I don't think that a Zealous tank and Citadels and Harlock Citadel is going to be enough, because Centurions, you know.
Yeah, I think
So
that's
jump between whatever.
That's a very valid point. I think you're right there. It's interesting. Oh dear. Right. Anybody else? Who else has got a plan or a different plan or something? Hang on. Who was going Zealous? Was it Hulse? Was you going Zealous? Were you?
Oh no. I still hold on to my Zealous. I'm doing exactly what Brian's doing. Pretty much gonna have two icebreakers that will be. I'll do that before the skill hole comes out and try and get the skill holes built and completed. Hopefully.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Zealous Empyrean for the next raid. At least once I have a couple of Empyreans built. I've got one cooking right now. But until I get them built, I'm gonna do Zealous Citadel, because I already have 3 Citadels built, so might as well use them. You know.
So your tank's made already.
Well, right now I'm using a Punisher tank. I've got a Zealous shell that I'm ranking, and I'm gonna turn that into a tank.
Right, got you. Yeah, that's good. That's a good idea. Yeah, and then you worry about obviously the mortar ones afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good way of doing it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, and you know, there's a few pictures out there now. In fact, you know, like you say, there's a good couple of videos of how to build obviously the tanks and that sort of stuff. Which, to be honest, it's a Punisher upgrade, isn't it? That's all it is, to be honest.
Yeah, it's like if the Punisher was the Vindicator 2.0, the Zealous is the Punisher 2.0. Or if you want to go that extend the whatchamacallit, the analogy, it's the Vindicator 3.0.
Yeah. I would say, though, just be cautious with the Zealous. Is one thing, okay? Yes, it does soak up a lot of damage, but it's in proportion to the amount of repair time. So whilst the Punisher, you know, and a Punisher does a 109, it's fine, that sort of stuff. You can do a complete one. You can do two, in fact. Or I think I did a video once upon a time that I showed doing a complete 3 and a bit set. But the point is, one single Punisher takes about 2 hours to fix. One single Zealous is not quite so much fun. So it can soak it.
It's like you do the targets during the day instead to repair overnight.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. So yeah, it's a great tank, and yeah, it can soak some damage up, and you know, it's durable and it lasts a long time. But when it's dead, it's dead. But then you've got to suffer the pain for that. So just bear that in mind. So if you are raiding in that format in the future, then 2 Zealous tanks is probably going to be, believe it or not, if you want to stay playing, is to use 2 Zealous tanks and then fix them overnight, you know, or if you go to work next day sort of stuff, and then you've got to play again with. So they will take some building. So maybe a Zealous tank is a definite thing to go with D1M and D1X.
The other thing is, and we've had a couple of questions on this on the page, and also on the forum, is the Tideseeker going to be as viable in the new Garrison and FM targets as they are in the FM today?
That's a very good point, because there's a heck of a lot of people using, obviously, Tideseekers with, especially they go in and trick the mines, and then get obviously the bloodthirst up straight away and a bit of speed, and away they go. You know, they're certainly lasting quite well, comparable to a, maybe not comparable to a Zealous, but definitely comparable to a Punisher. I don't know, Robin. I must admit, that'll be interesting. Maybe not.
One other question that a lot of people have been asking.
Go on.
The Imperium has a heavy weapon slot. What's going to go there?
Well, I think it's just because there had to be a heavy weapon slot come eventually. Unusual that it's on obviously a retargeting mortar hull, which is a bit bizarre because you know, if anything, I was going to put it on the Zealous, really, to be honest. But something will come.
It's going to be a heavy mortar weapon that's going to benefit from the Imperium's retargeting.
Well, someone said a heavy counter, but I don't know.
I'm a fan of the heavy counter theory, but.
Did I make that one up, or was that one out there before?
I can't remember, but it'd be nice if there was a heavy counter that could counter morts and missile. So
I know I trolled this
like at first.
Liam's heavy armor.
Yeah,
Liam's heavy armor.
Heavy armor, and he did the heavy countermeasure, and I threatened to kick him in the nuts.
The good thing about it, I suppose, what they could do, they could make several things that could go in that slot, couldn't they? And you could change the dynamics of the hull, being the generalist hull. You know, I'd like to see a countermeasure that countermeasured both. You know, morts and missiles, that sort of stuff. You know, it was only one slot, so if it was like a half decent one that was equivalent to, not necessarily a Phalanx 4 and a Hail 3, but you know, something that was half and half, it was nearly as good as.
What if it countered MIRVs, like the Halo? It splits.
Yeah,
and our Judgment split. It would have to have a really long range because it would have to cover your tank in the front line, but you know, maybe. It'd have to be really, really good at killing MIRVs too, if that's its only job.
What about if is it just a weapon slot? Or could it be used as main? What about if you put? Remember, you used to put the old. I can't remember what they used to be called. You used to put aura fields on things, didn't you?
Oh yeah, the arbiter thingy. What's it?
Yeah, that was it. Imagine a stack of them.
Well, that already exists, and they kind of didn't. That would be neat.
Yeah, if you imagine, you said you had, drop it on, and you could have thermal of 85, or take it off, and you could have. I don't know, a fleet.
Yeah, you can
speed bonus
of something.
You can add anything you want to a heavy. If they make up a new weapon, they can add whatever the hell they want. I mean,
be good fun though. It'd make the generalist a real sort of like niche hull, then, wouldn't it? You could, really have some fun.
So we got a new hull in the form of the Imperium, but we don't have a weapon yet. They said they weren't going to do that again.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Oh dear.
Well, old heavy weapons are literally too heavy to put on it with the weapon weight increases that we have.
There's the counter to that though as well. That there's a weapon in the weekly that we haven't got a hull for.
Yeah, that's
common.
It's a random counter, that thing. We know what's coming. In fact, it's pretty because it's Scourge. It even says it's Scourge, so that's the indication there's going to be a sub. Because I don't see anything other than.
It's just quite ironic that we've got a weapon slot without a weapon, and now we've got a counter as such. Like without
for
a hull.
hull doesn't exist.
Just for balance.
We've got the one white sock and we've got the one blue sock, and we're not paired either one, but one day we'll find a match.
Well, it's worse than that. You've got one glove and you've got one foot, and the glove don't go on the foot. Unless you're Bigfoot. Anyway. But yeah, it's the same sort of analogy, isn't it? It's a bit weird, I have to say. But you can have some fun with that special slot on that hull, and then really take the generalist into an area of its own. Hopefully not breaking the game, but it could make it quite fun.
There's a lot of talk that says that that we've got some heavy weapons anyway, and I'm looking at it and going, well, do I just put one of the heavy weapons that I've got in that slot? Because I've got, let's say I've got one build, it's ranked now. The second one's in the oven. And I'm like, well, no, I'll just leave it blank. It seems silly refitting anyway. So I thought, right, well, I'll leave it blank, see what happens.
Yeah.
And then.
I think that makes sense, because then you're gonna have to pay to take it off once it comes out. Yeah. The refit penalty, I'm still not completely sold. Yeah, I don't know what the purpose is at this point.
It needs to not exist anymore. Much like some of the prizes. And if you got that D100Z mortar, the new mortar, you can retro that in your retrofit lab. It's in Siege Mortars right with the rest of them.
I think a lot of people
retro in it.
Yeah, a lot of people are probably 5 or should be on about 5 or 6 if you haven't done it before. You should be able to get through quite reasonable on that one. And it's quite a reasonable cost, I think, for uranium.
Yeah, it's pretty cheap.
I just Siege Mortars up a long time ago.
You've done it already, have you?
Yeah. It's like, okay, we need to use mortars. Siege Mortars are my best mortars. Time to retrofit.
What's he got there? Heat-seeking turd mortars.
Oh
yeah.
god!
So that was the first raid of that other cycle.
Yeah,
where they floated in the air for like 30 minutes.
Imagine if we had some of those heat-seeking. Yeah, let's have some of those. Put that on the back of that hull. That'd be quite funny. Just one with like a 50k payload or something on it. just a
splash of 100.
Yeah, I want an oil slick that you can lay out behind you and light on fire. That's what I want.
Well, you'd be playing right to Liam's fun boat. Then, wouldn't you? He'd love
George,
that.
you need to lay off the Spy Hunter for a while.
That's exactly what I was thinking of, actually.
How about a heavy slot that fires a mortar that causes a stun for 10 seconds, something like that?
Yeah,
it fires ahead of itself.
Pinch mortar.
Yeah, pinch mortar that fires out.
Give it a really long reload time. Realize the skull rank actually quarters that reload time. Swear a lot.
You guys keep on looking for new stuff that they can screw up when they're coding. I'm like, hey, use the stuff we already got in the game. You can't screw it up. It's already done.
Yeah, it fires UAVs and causes a
They might be
fire
able to
pool.
screw it up too because cascading code.
I could wind Liam up like Chronic here. He's not here, can he?
I mean, well, you're not going to put the friggin' Death Scythe missile on it. You're not going to put the scatter gun on it. You might put the thermonuclear on it for armor. But they're all also really heavy, in just terms of tonnage. And usually you have, you've got the, like the garrison battery or whatever, and our specials for explosions like to have a really high weapon weight. So maybe this is going to be a bit on the lighter side of heavy weapons, but do something. Just let us put it on the ships.
So we've got 5 minutes left, so it's time for we've got some positives tonight, and it's been good, okay? But I'm going to do one negative, okay, and then everybody can pick a negative, because you can't have it all on one side, can we? Because otherwise they'll just think the game's great, and they're going to make lots of profit and go and pat each other on the back. So my thing I don't like is, okay, so we've had 14 hulls. How many of those have been flagships or singleton hulls? 2? Probably 2 of them at most, okay? So we've had 12 hulls, okay? So you are going to build a fleet of 5, okay? Then something tells me then that's 60 hulls, okay? 60 hulls in 3 months. Where's the dock space for that lot?
Dock space. Dock space.
Where's the dock
space? You said the magic words. I know.
What about the build time? No, the dock space. Look, the dock space pisses me off. But what about the build time? I mean, look at the icebreakers alone, right? 4 of them are 60 days in build time, plus whatever flagship comes out. That damn thing's gonna have 15 days just for a blank. I mean, what the dock space?
Yeah, but to be honest, mate, look, I mean, there's two types of players, okay? There's the players that get there's 3 players. There's the players that can't get anything, and they just struggle, and they're just in the game because it's something to talk about and talk to people. There's players that are really picky on what they pick, and then they build what they need and that sort of stuff. And those are probably the smartest players. Or then there's players like me, a monster. We just build everything, because that's how we like to play our game. But we can't build everything. That's the point, mate. We can't build what we want. We're having to eat as well because we've had to build both fleets every time for the raid, and then they're going to do the same exact thing when the new skill hull comes out. They're tuning that son of a bitch to the skill hull, not the icebreaker. So hey, first month I'm going to have the icebreaker. After that, I stick that in the corner and I take out the next one. I mean, come on. No, I'm going to pause this time. I'm not doing that. I haven't got enough space. I'd have to bin some more ships, and I'm not prepared to do that. So this time I'm just going to wait. I've built on blanks, and I'm just going to wait out now. I've put them into the storage area. And I have already got rid of 2 other things I didn't want to get rid of, but I have done it. Because I know there's another hull coming else. Because we know right side of, obviously, this raid is going to be something else. It's probably going to defender hull or something like that. And we already know that there's some sexy subs coming out somewhere, because we've now got a special for it. And, and so there's a countermeasure for it. So there's another hull.
Defender or Conqueror. I mean, it's going to be one of those two.
Whatever. The point is there's going to be another one, mate. And that's, it's more stuff to toy around with. So I'm freaking sick of recycling ships that are not even 12 months old.
Yeah, I said something a couple weeks ago about the bloody dock space, and I think is Nick in the chat still?
Yeah.
Me and him spoke about it probably about a month and a half ago, and it hasn't gotten any better. It hasn't. We just keep on seeing more hulls and more hulls.
Okay,
then,
that's my bad.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway,
build time.
So build times. Okay, build times is another one, because they are, and repair times are creeping a little bit as well. But that's a different issue because they just said, well, don't kill them as much. They last longer because they're meant to last longer, and But
horseshit.
Except they don't.
I wouldn't like to fleet a 5. If you had a
crash
5 flipping Zealouses, I'd hate to fix that fleet.
1 second of delay on a click. I've had my clicks get eaten in 107s. That's death if a click gets eaten in 107.
Flash crash, SOS, you're screwed. 3 hours a hull, 15 hours. That's 15 coins during raid time. And you know what? That's maybe for Tuesday we'll have a slide so we can show what the Apollos were when they were dead, because you only needed 3 or 4 of them, right? And then the Hell Wraiths, and then just go through the cycle of each one, and we'll see the repair time for a oops has gone up and up and up and up and up. So if you crash. Especially if you crash and you don't have, and you haven't coined or anything, you're boned. Yeah, I'm just telling you right now, you're boned. And then if you do coin, or if you coin a little, you got to wait 2-3 days to get reimbursed for the coins that you shouldn't have had to spend in the first place because you had an SOS crash or something, or a flash crash, and you just blew 15 coins for nothing.
Unless you've only spent $20 and don't get support.
I
Or spend no money and don't get support.
Go on.
I checked the Apollo the other night when I was putting that thing together the other day, and I think it was like 1 hour and 34 minutes. I think it was for the Apollo bare hull versus the big ones that we've got now.
Wow, flipping neck.
Yeah,
I had an oops today ranking, and a Zealous and 3 Empyreans was 22 coins.
Ouch!
Ow!
Good lord. So you're still 1 ship down, and it still costs you that. And is that armored or unarmored?
Unarmored.
Oh my word!
The XVP has been, I think, has been wonderful this time round. No suiciding for me. I've been wandering around the other sectors, hitting 101s, taking out the fleets, 16 to 17k per hit.
Yeah, it's quite decent, isn't it? Yeah.
Damage. Yeah, loving it. I'm getting chased a lot, but
That's good. Anybody else? Anybody?
I have. I just checked the Apollos, and I have 3 built. Regular repair time would be about 4.5 hours. During raid time, that's 2 1/4. And that's unarmored.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
missed that.
Yeah, they had a great repair efficiency, and you can get the resist and deflection up so high. Well, and the resistances and deflection mattered is the big key, because if we all remember with the Ironclad, we built it so, it's with full bloodthirst, it's like 99% plus resistant to ballistic and radioactive, and we have 400 siege deflection. And that didn't matter when the giant cannon took a shot at you, and it didn't matter in the launchers and the high and stuff, and it's terrible.
Yeah, it is.
I got another one I can add.
Go on.
Communication.
What's that?
Yeah.
Doesn't happen.
Exactly.
No, it's sadly lacking. It is lacking this last couple of months.
Yeah, it's
But one
interesting.
day the carrier pigeon will arrive at my house, and I'll know what's happening soon.
Yep.
I can't read smoke signals, you guys.
I mean, I think one thing that Kixeye is not doing well at this point is properly advertising some of the abilities of the technology that we're winning. The example is the new mortar. It's way better than anything you read on the blueprint. And I don't know why they're not giving us the other stats associated with it.
And it's weird because just like you said, it's better, but we can't really know that. And let's say I take my Harlock Citadel and Citadels in and I get smashed. Well, if you just had this new mortar that performs better, and yeah, like it does a bit better like normal DPS and stuff in my calculations without a Harlock Cid. But when I add the Harlock Cid in, oh, these are way better. Well, even that's not technically true anymore. So I should be building a thing that is better, but I can't know that it's better.
Yeah,
What?
you got to just trust that it's better. But the reason that the Imperium mortar is better is because the minimum splash on that is 85% of the maximum damage, as opposed to Judgment mortar is 50%.
And for everyone, that is at the edge of its splash range, the Judgment mortar deals half of its normal damage, whereas the new one deals what, 85%? You said?
Yeah.
Yeah. So think about that.
Okay, cool. Right, just before we sign off tonight, there's a couple of things I just wanted to mention, basically. So I'm just going to quickly share and present to everybody my screen. Okay, so this one actually belongs to George, but I'm going to promote it as well, and it's good because it's got
belongs to Robin, actually.
Well, this blog does, but it's basically it's George's Forsaken Cove. Okay. And it's good because it covers things like Huggies is on there, obviously our page is on there as well, but it's, Battle Pirates Crib's on there as well, the Hyperion Owners Club's on there as well, so it's not just a TFC push here. This is a community push as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so as you can see, look, I've zoomed in quite reasonable, I think, there, but there are 32 different entries already for 2017. Okay, and this one that was only literally March 25th, as you can see there, look, it's putting things in perspective. It's a really, really good read and that sort of stuff. And actually, Robin's analysed the whole game, what's happened, the positive aspects, and the things that maybe we just take for granted, we haven't even thought about it. Like today, and it was mentioned on a page today that all you got to do is look at the top of the page, and just for this time, the very first time now, at the top of the screen, it actually says this target is up until this time, and this target is up right the way through the whole weekend. That's the first time this happened. It's made a big difference. So, it does help, Hang on, can everybody see that? Can they see my screen or not? I'm not sure they can.
Yep.
I'm hoping you can.
Well, I can.
You can.
Yep.
Someone in the chat saying they can't see it. So,
Yeah,
what are you looking at?
Yeah, it's not on YouTube.
It's not on YouTube. How about now? Just see if it's up there. I'm not really sure if it is not, but it should be. It should be up. Well, there's a delay on there. So basically, there we go.
There it is. Yep.
Is it up there now? Okay, sorry,
there
it wasn't
now.
locked on the right way. Right, it's good. So there we go. So Forsaken Cove. Okay, then, like I said, they've got 32 entries this year to date already. And there's some great stuff. I mean, look at the March entries already. There's 11 already. So as soon as something comes out, one of the guys mentions it or talks about it or picks it apart or slates it. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, and this stuff gets read. So not just by obviously the community, but also like it's a good resource and that sort of stuff. And it's putting the community perspective into like almost like to one side of A4 paper sort of stuff,
Yeah, and there was actually a mention on the page today about multi-shot, right? And there's an article on there. Most of the technical articles on here actually do get read by Kixeye devs. I don't know if it's to make sure I don't screw up or if they're trying to catch me out. I don't know which one it is, but it's really cool because if I do mess up, someone's going to tell me that I screwed up. So generally, if you see an older article that has like technical stuff like this is how multi-shot works, it's, if it's 10,000 and it's 10 shot, it's 1,000 each shot. Chances are that's been checked.
Yeah, and don't forget the classic example is then that's when we did the base design templates with the diagonal
Yes.
runs. There was the classic where people go, no, that's illegal, that's not right, and then you said, no, it is right, and that sort of stuff. And these are the things you can and can't do. And then the proof of the pudding was in the eating. Actually, they came back and went, yeah, you can do it.
In the
You
eating?
absolutely can.
That's awesome.
Delicious proof.
Proof of the pudding is in the eating. It always is, mate. Eat your humble pie, in other words. Yeah. Okay. So it's factual. Okay. Then but that's an example. Okay. And it was George that brought it up first. So I mean, I'm not bigging you up, mate, but it's a fact. The fact is, okay, then the code is working very, very well. It's not linked to any specific page. Okay, then it references good reference. That's it. It's as good as that. So there we go. Just thought I'd bring it up. Right. Has anybody got points to close with? Anything you want to talk about quickly?
I actually just want to add that Robin's been putting up articles on that thing and has had some fucking fantastic articles. So if you don't like my geeky ones, you can read hers.
Oh, thank you.
I have to say I've enjoyed both of them. I read them on my way to work as a rule on my phone, and I get the geek within our tiny clan and stuff like that. And they're like, well, what have you caught up with this week? What have you caught up with that week? And I'm the one that ends up in part and stuff to say, right, you must read this, catch up with that article, or go to this is what you need to be able to, if you want to check it out there. That's what I've been doing for our clan, and I think we've managed to advance a couple of months than we have done in a long time, and that's thanks to you guys. So
Thank you very much. That's the whole point. Yeah, help the community.
Can we say working as intended?
I think he was talking about Robin's.
Right, guys, we're going to pull the plug and call it a night. Okay, thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks to the guys in chat. It's been really, really interesting, and that's a quick hour gone by, or an hour and 10, in fact, to be honest. Hopefully, we'll get an interesting update next week and that sort of stuff. Something's going to happen next weekend. There's going to be a TLC. There's going to be a new hole. Okay, and let's see what comes. And we can all rant about it this time next week. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. All right, mate. Cheers. Thanks for having us. Bye now.